Sego, I'm John KANE, and this is Why It Matters. Last week, the Seneca Nation and New York State completed 2 days of arbitration hearings called by the state to attempt to force the Senecas to pay them almost 50% of the net profit from their Class 3 electronic games or slot machines. For 14 years, the Seneca Nation has been in a revenue-sharing agreement with New York State where the state was to provide gaming market protection to the Senecas in exchange for a percentage of their slot machine revenue. The market protection was to be an exclusivity zone, including 15 Western New York counties, where the Seneca casino gaming would be free of competition. The revenue sharing for this prize was to be a sliding scale of 18% for years 1 through 4, 22% for years 5 through 7, and 25% for years 8 through 14 of the net slot drop from the slot machines. But wait, I thought you said it was almost 50%. Well, let me explain. Net slot drop means the amount of money taken in by the machines only minus the payouts of the machines. It's not the same as the net gaming revenue. So out of the 75% that the Senecas could keep in the last 7 years, all the expenses of the casino operation was covered. Those expenses, which could include everything from the cost of the machines to the cost of the building, staff, marketing, utilities, all of the other operating expenses of the entire facility would only come out of the portion of the revenue the Senecas could keep. The state's 25% of the net slot drop was taken out before any operational expenses. And when compared to what came out of the 75% Seneca portion, that 25% was more like 49% of the net profit of those machines. Now, for what the state gave for that revenue. What sounded like market protection and a huge concession from the state was anything but. First of all, Class 3 gaming was not legal in New York State. So even without an exclusivity, the Senecas already had the exclusive rights for casino gaming. State law prohibited anyone else from this market, even without granting exclusivity. The state did, however, have lotteries and horse racetracks throughout the state. And in spite of the exclusivity the Senecas were paying for, the state expanded 3 racetracks in the exclusivity zone and others throughout the state into casinos offering slot machines. The state called these places casinos and the electronic games slot machines, but argued later that they were technically just lottery machines that looked, played, sounded, and were actually the same machines the Senecas operated, but with slightly different software. This is how the state got around their laws prohibiting Class 3 casinos. They simply pushed the existing Class 2 gaming laws right to the limit. So needless to say, that in spite of paying the state for market protection, the Seneca Nation was in direct competition with the state. And for a period between 2009 and 2013, the Seneca Nation withheld revenue sharing payments pending resolution of this breach. This was the first time arbitration was called for. But before an arbitration ruling would come out on this matter, the Seneca Nation and New York State reached a settlement. $600 million had been withheld during this period. The settlement had the Senecas retaining $200 million and releasing $400 million to the state. The state would no longer call the facilities within the exclusivity zone casinos or the games slot machines, but the overall operations would continue, and revenue sharing of 25% of the net slot drop would continue as per the existing gaming compact. Seneca officials had made it clear that one of the deciding factors in settling this disagreement was the renewal of the state Seneca Gaming Compact in 2016. So after December of 2016, the new term of that gaming compact began. But unlike the previous 14 years, this renewal period of 7 years had no revenue sharing included. The explicit terms of the original compact, including the sliding scale on the percentages and the years that they applied, only went to year 14. It should also be noted that in 2013, New York State amended its state constitution to allow the state to license 4 Class 3 casinos. They would begin to come into operation in 2017. Now, the state insists the Senecas must keep paying in spite of the worthless exclusivity provision and clear absence of any language in the compact that would extend payments into the new compact term to 2023. And this is what was argued in arbitration hearings last week, and now awaits a ruling sometime in January. This all sounds very cut and dry, and one would think a ruling by this arbitration panel should resolve the issues and put an end to all this nonsense. But it's never quite that easy. On paper, revenue sharing is simple. The state provides something of value and the Senecas to the Senecas, and the Senecas pay the state for that thing of value. But revenue sharing was never really about the state providing an exclusivity. It was about the Senecas buying political will. It is actually illegal for the states to force native gaming operators to pay them. Federal law prohibits it. But if we back up to 2013, we know that the main reason the Seneca Nation settled their dispute over the gaming revenue provision was to maintain good relations with the state and to secure a smooth transition through the compact renewal in 2016. The Senecas could have ended revenue sharing in 2013 and kept all of that $600 million. But fear of a compact showdown in 2016 backed the Seneca Nation down. In this current battle with the state, the language of the compact simply does not support the state's position. One of the most absurd things about all of this is that the operators of the state licensed casinos have publicly stated that they can't compete with the Seneca Gaming if the Senecas don't pay. Let me say that again. The Senecas paying the state for exclusivity actually makes them less competitive and helps their competition. But 2023 is not that far away. And there are those within the Seneca Nation and their spheres of influence who are simply scared about what will happen when the compact needs to be renewed in 2023. Some say just pay the money. Of course, this starts to look a lot more like extortion than revenue sharing. Pay or else. No, there are plenty of questions about what happens if a vindictive governor or state says, no, we no longer want a compact with native gaming operators. Can native gaming continue without a compact? Or does this ultimately give the states power to shut down native gaming? Certainly, New York State has benefited tremendously from Seneca Gaming. They pocketed $1.4 billion in this revenue sharing scam. A gaming market was built by native gaming, and the public was softened up enough to approve state licensed casinos, something rejected for over 60 years. Now the state has their own casinos, and these upstart Senecas keep challenging the pay-to-play system. So the question is, will the Seneca Nation pay to play? This is no longer about revenue sharing. It is about extortion. Even if it's not said or in print anywhere, there is no question what the state expects. So is this where the line gets drawn? Will the Seneca Nation stand up to the state or cave in and make a deal? Can the Senecas even afford to pay another $1 billion to the state in an ever-shrinking and more crowded gaming market? This is how the Seneca Nation is funded. They have no tax revenue. This is it. So where are those voices of the Seneca people on this issue? And where are the voices of other Native people who have so much riding on the Senecas right now? These are the questions, and this is why it matters.